and welcome back to the second race of rFactor 2's Formula Pro Championship presented by Traction.gg. Myself, Cameron Roger, and Aidan Millward here for the pre-show. So we're going to take you through everything that's coming up towards this race. We'll have a look back at the previous race as well and just get you up to speed with what's going on and what to look forward to over the next couple of hours. So Aidan, first race of the season, really good to see some new faces, some new teams, also the new car, and it looks like it's going to be an amazing season.
Yeah, first race at Spa was absolutely brilliant. We're going to another great track in Silverstone, which is a bit more high speed compared to Spa. A lot of the corner entry is high speed and a lot of trying to follow close in dirty air, as we call it, things like that, which shouldn't be too much of a problem in these sort of more ground affected type cars. But with the way that they went at it at Spa with the close racing there, I expect more of the same here tonight.
Yeah, certainly. And speaking of Spa, let's have a quick reminder of what happened a couple of weeks ago. The season starting and no one really knew what was going to be happening, but as you'll see, it was certainly a very entertaining race. Jeffrey Rietveld starting from pole position along with Bono House as well. So great to see top teams, top drivers already getting towards the front of the field. And it was certainly quite a frantic start. No one really knew what was going to be happening. And we're already seeing some overtaking from Kevin Siggy as we come up towards Eau Rouge and Radion, with Mohamed Patel having to drop back just a little bit. But for sure, it was one of those times where the teams and drivers were really just learning how to race with this car.
Yeah, and this car has a new sort of, I won't call it a new tyre model, but the way the tyres work on these cars, as Jan von Harder goes off in the background there, sort of works differently to other cars in rFactor 2, and the brakes work differently as well. So when the brakes are cold, there is more of a stopping distance involved, as this is Bono House going around the outside towards Lake Hill. He's pretty much got that move done before the corner itself. And Nuno Pinto here coming up to the bus stop chicane. That's Alan Terzic just giving his teammate a bit of a tap around, and that sort of knocked them on the back foot. And then more moves from Giordano Valeriano going through Eau Rouge and Radion here. Just everybody giving each other so much room, and like, even when they got close like that, nobody was forced onto the grass, nobody was forced into a wall. It was all very clean, very respectful, and great to watch for the audience.
Yeah, certainly indeed. And there's certainly some very tough racing that we saw at Lake Holm, and this was one of the main incidents that happened there, was Terzic there getting spun around on the backside of his ex-teammate there, Jordi Vaz, unfortunately. And that's not going to be the first, or the only incident, I should say, for Terzic. And it's a bit difficult for some of these drivers really trying to get to grips with how this was going to be. Obviously, some of the best drivers and teams, as we say. Really good start here by Yanni Simic. It's just showing you how it can be done, but then just gets so tough as you get in towards this turn number one. Alex Siebel now making a really good move on Pajic, but unfortunately his race is not going to get too much better from that moment on, as you'll see a bit later on. But the DRS certainly looked like it was pretty effective down the Kemmel Straight, so we'll have to see how that one works in Silverstone, with there being these two back straights as well.
Yeah, two DRS zones at Silverstone on the Wellington Straight and on the Hanger Straight, as Mohamed Patel been chased by Des Jordan through Lake Carmen, now up towards this is Pouhon, and then back on this Kevin Siggy. And as we had a moment where that looked quite eerily similar to something that happened like the night before. There's Alan Terzic and Alex Siebel coming together here, just tried to sniff it up the inside of Pouhon, and they both spun off. But that's not the only accident that would happen there in this race.
Yeah, it would not, and Alex Siebel getting a penalty as well for that. So unfortunately, he would be losing some points as we get towards the championship a little bit later on. Nice slow-mo there. Bono House just pulling away a little bit, and Von der Heide getting on the back of Nuno Pinto as well before sending it down the inside on a slightly different strategy, having already pitted during that part of the race as well. And the strategy is going to be an important point, because we didn't really know what was going on in the first race, but now everyone knows that a one-stop is certainly looking like it's going to be a bit better. Here, Valeriano getting spun around, and he's going to lose his front wing on the back of one of the Red Bull cars. And about halfway through the race, we come in for this one-stop strategy that we saw be king. The drivers who tried a two-stop strategy last time didn't really work out, so we'll have to see if that one translates to Silverstone as well.
The Silverstone pit lanes are a little bit different to this one, given that you cut out that final corner, and it gains you sort of 3 seconds initially, but then you lose it in the straight line. This is the other accident between Alex Siebel and Giordano Valeriano. Siebel tried to, I think it was just a coming together but it's almost got mounted by the other Formula Pro car. Alex Siebel able to continue, but Valeriano's Mustang car was absolutely ruined, as the TV cam shows, as just a bizarre accident, and that was the end of his race.
Yeah, a bit of a difficult situation there, but unfortunately the Red Bull driver having another incident in that corner, and he will be looking to have a bit of a better race in Silverstone in a few moments' time as well, I'm sure, because we all know that Siebel can be a very good driver indeed. But Page here coming out of the pit lane, and it seems that he sort of got stuck on the pit limiter, couldn't get away from that, and unfortunately that is going to lead to his DNF. So hopefully, considering his teammate doing so well in this race, he can bring some points back for Mercedes in this race.
Yeah, this is Michi Hoyer. I can see his face cam there at the bottom as well. That was the two-stop strategy you were talking about. I think it was only Burst that really tried to take it on. It didn't work with the less fuel, the less time on the tyres and things like that. And here's Kevin Siggy having a sniff at the Wolves car on the outside of the Camel Straight. Liam Duval, just nothing, had no answer to that DRS, and that was the red line car straight through. Michi Hoyer again on another Wolves car through the run from Blanchimont up to the chicane, and here's Kasper Stolzer getting attacked with a bit of a lock-up into the bus stop. So it was all very, very clean racing for the most part. A bit of a wiggle on the exit as Kasper tried to get the power down, and now this Red Bull on a car. The stream just went a bit blurry. It's a Williams Esports car, okay, so it might have been Brilliac that he was attacking here, and just trying to get things done as the tyres started to wear away at the end of the stint.
Yeah, indeed, there was some really good battling. I'm interested to see how this one's going to translate. But Dennis Jordan here. So Jordan was actually one of the drivers on the two-stop strategy along with those two burst cars that we previously saw, which is why they got into these action battles towards the end of the race. But unfortunately, it just wasn't quite enough to gain back the time, with it only being a 1 hour race. But also Bianca Lilla and Von der Heide battling once again into Les Combes. Probably the best overtaking opportunity on that specific track. Getting inside the top 10 is certainly very important indeed, and we're now going to see replay of Bianca Lilla around the outside. Very difficult braking zone because you really take the speed in, having to leave enough room for the other drivers. It's certainly very important to do so, but a very clean overtake, which couldn't be said for some other drivers, but fortunately they managed to do it on that occasion.
And this is Jan van der Heide at the end of the race, the final lap, trying to basically return the favour, gets the move done, covers the inside immediately, but as they come through the corner, a little bit of contact, and then the Rocket Esports car gets spun around, and Van der Heide drops to 11th, but with penalties he actually got bumped back up to 10th.
Yeah, so always keen to get yourself up inside the top 10, but just showing you how it is possible to battle, but when you just get this close, it's very difficult indeed. Bianca Lilla, really good switchback there, but unfortunately just getting a little bit too close to his rival and having the bit of a spin. But it was Bunnehaus in the end who managed to win the race. Him and Rietveld really managed to pull away from the field, so Ziggy and co behind, albeit getting good results, will be wanting to try and find a way of getting back those almost 10 seconds to the top two drivers. And I think we really need to see how the championship progresses, whether these drivers are going to be still there as we get towards the next race, or if it's going to be some different drivers. But just up there you can see Haus, Rietveld and Ziggy rounding out the podium. So Redline really getting a good start to the season. And in terms of the team's championship, obviously leading the way at the moment with the results from there. So I wonder, Aidan, do you think they're the ones really to look out for, or is it too early to say?
I mean, you would put your money on Redline anyway at the start, just because of the lineup they have in general across all of sim racing. You know, Bono House had that brilliant performance, whereas his teammate was forced to retire with that bizarre pit lane limiter thing that happened to him, which that's the first time I've ever seen that. But if Page can have another good run, then Mercedes can get it back. You know, you have one driver retire and the other has a poor result, then you're right down at the bottom at the end of the season. The two worst teams are gone down to Formula Challenge, which will be on Friday, and then two more teams will replace them. So it's going to be more about consistency as well as getting those wins and podiums.
It's only a 6-race season, but it's so important, as you say, have that consistency. You need to be getting the results, because in a 6-race season, if you have just even one bad race, that can really drop you down the order. You need to be getting those results, and we have seen already in the practice session that's going on at the moment, House is already at the front. So it seems he's really going to be the one that's going for that driver's title, but the teams is so important here. And I want to see if some teams who are maybe sort of down in the mid-pack, even the likes of maybe Burst or Red Bull, who are trying that two-stop strategy, are they going to learn from that and then actually come and fight at the front? Because you never know. In a championship like this, where everything sort of happens so fast, you need to make sure that you're getting to the front. And I think they are potentially ones who will learn from the mistakes they made in the first race.
And it's not like this place is a track that's short of overtaking points. You've got turn 3. We'll take you for a guided tour around the lap in a moment. You've got turn 3, you've got Stowe, which is good for swinging it around the outside, and down the Wellington Straight and the Hanger Straight as well with the DRS zone. So there's plenty of places to get past, and we're seeing the sort of drone footage now that Ruben's put together. So turn 1, Abbey, flat out in these things. Heavy braking zone for Village, which is a right-hander 90 degrees, then the loop, so it sends you back the other way. Down the Wellington Straight to Brooklands with its late apex, it's another good place to overtake. Lovefield, a corner that feels like it goes on forever on dead tyres. And then Copse, the less said about that corner, the better, given recent events. And then through Maggots and Beckett's and Chapel, probably the finest sequence of corners on the planet, and then up to Stowe. Quick entry on there. Got to be very careful of the track limits on the exit into the Vale and Club Corner, which takes you back onto the start-finish straight to complete the lap.
And now we're going to get a guided tour from Risto Capit, giving us a good lap. So over the course of the season, we'll try and get a couple of different teams and drivers showing you the way around the track. But it is it's a very fast one, and I think that's going to be a very important point for this track. We saw that the DRS was effective in Spa, but that's mainly because the straights were just so long. Here the straights are a bit shorter, so I think the track position is going to be very key, and that qualifying position is going to be very, very important for this race. Also, with the corners, there being a lot more corners in regards to the length of the track as well, the tyre wear is going to be very important. As you'll see when we get up to this part of the track, as you say, Aidan, it's just so fast and flowing. You've got to really lean on the tyres, and if you're sort of struggling a little bit with keeping close to the cars ahead, then you're just going to have to push that a little bit more, and if you do it too much, then you will be destroying the tyres.
Yeah, I mean, I've been testing here last couple of nights because I'm doing Formula Challenge on Friday, and the front left just gets absolutely hammered around here. Like even in the half-hour stint I did, the front left just down into the low 30s in terms of percentage, so it's just horrible going through corners like Stowe. Like I say, that Copse and Stowe are going to be the points where the track limit detection is going to be at its strictest, and we could see some drive-throughs in this race, whereas we probably didn't at Spa because of the way it was a bit easier to control those track limit excursions.
That's very true. The track limits are often a big talking point around here. And here you see the calendar. So we started in Spa-Francorchamps today. We're going to Silverstone. Well, we are in Silverstone. And then the calendar continues every second week before we go to the Nürburgring, the Indianapolis road course, Zandvoort, and the newly released Monza in September. So we've still got a good 5 races left in this championship. Still all to play for. But it's really nice calendar. And I can't wait till we get to some of those other tracks a bit later on.
Yeah, Monza's going to be great with all the slipstreaming, but just a quick rundown of the race format. So we're going to have 20 minutes of qualifying, where drivers can either do a single 4-lap run, although I don't know why you'd want to here because of the tyre life being what it is, or they could do 2 1-lap runs. So it's out lap, flying lap, in lap, or just out lap and run the laps. And then so from qualifying on, only the brakes, engine, steering, and front left wing are open. So it's basically parc ferme conditions as it is in real top level open wheelers. And the race must be started on a new tyre of the same compound used in qualifying, so you can't qualify on the softs and then whack on the hards and just go for the whole thing. And then you've got to do at least 1 tyre change in the race, and I can put some fuel in as well. You've got to get to the end, and the same compound is allowed. And it's a 1-hour race with a standing start, and there will be a formation lap as well, so they can get the brakes warmed up and things like that. And then on the right-hand side, you've got about 800 horsepower on tap, 18k on the rev limit. Car is pretty light, 680 kilos with a wheelbase of 3.2 meters, double wishbone suspension up to 2.5 tons give or take of downforce, and then some big front tyres with some big brakes for stopping, and some meaty rear tyres with some pretty decent rear brakes as well for getting the power down out of places like Luffield and the Loop.
It's certainly a difficult car to drive, and with those only 2 attempts in qualifying, we are certainly going to be seeing a bit of a mixed up grid in some situations. But here we have the prize money. What are the drivers fighting for? Well, per race, per round, the drivers will be getting some prize money depending on their finishing position. So $250 for the winner of the race, and then as you can see, it moves its way down there to $40 for everyone 8th and below. So you still get some money for showing up, even if you have a bit of a bad race, but for sure, to be earning the big bucks, you want to be getting towards the front. And then the main money really comes in that team's championship. So this is what they're really fighting for, $5,000 for the leading team. And obviously there's only 6 races, so effectively 12 between your 2 drivers, 12 chances of scoring points. So it's really not too much to make sure you're getting all the points you can, because that heavily decreases as you get all the way down towards that 13th place. So I think the teams do need to focus on making sure they've got 2 consistently fast drivers, but for sure it's some good money to be fighting for either way.
Yeah, it is indeed, and here is the, we can't really call it the Constructors' Championship because they're all the same car, but the team standings, at least, there's Team Redline right there at the top, ahead of Vargas Sim Racing, and then Mercedes, despite winning the first race, only 3rd because, well, only Bonnerhouse won. Finished, I should say, and then Williams Esports in 4th, R8G with Erhan Yoski and Risto Capet there in 5th, Wolves GR Esports in 6th with Adam Maguire and Liam Duval, First Esports, Michi Hoy and Yone Simicic in 7th, then it's Rocket Sim Sport with Jan Bonderheider and Danny Kish there on all the 3s. They're ahead of Red Bull, Dennis Jordan, Alex Siebel, again only Red Bull having 1 person finishing in their last race. BS Competition again only had 1 person finishing in their race. Team Vordzilla with Fiducci and Pinto, 324 points, and then Jacer, the John Lacy Esports Academy, on 320 points there in 12th, and Musto GD Esports in 13th. So as it stands, John Lacy Esports and Musto would be going down at the end of this season, but still all to play for. Things could turn on their head. It only takes 1 team to have a bad round, and there is your driver standings.
Yeah, as you say, it only takes 1 bad round. You mentioned a few of those teams only having 1 finisher, and when it's a team's championship, that is already losing 1 of their chances of scoring points. But here, as you say, is the driver's standings. Bonner House, as you see, leading the way. Obviously, this is basically just the finishing order after penalties from what we've seen. So we will start to get as we get in towards Silverstone, Nürburgring, we'll start to really get an idea of who is going to be leading the way into this first ever Formula Pro series powered by Traction.gg. There isn't sort of many things we can expect as such, because we don't know who is going to continue being at the top. But certainly drivers a bit lower down will certainly want to be getting points, because they do get participation points, as you see Terzic and co getting that 150 points, but it's those points on top of that really make the difference.
Yeah, so 150 just for turning up is fine, but if you don't get any on top of that and everybody else does, like you see Bonner House right there at the top, and then some more stats, everybody on 1 start, you got 1 win there for Bonner House, 1 pole position there for Jeffrey Rietveld, and then 1 fastest lap there for Dennis Jordan, who put that in at some point over the course of the race, and then laps led, podiums, top 5s, top 10. Obviously, it's going to be as it was as they finished in the first race, because we only had 1 race, but that could easily have numbers added to it. Those below, like Jordan, Simicic, Bridak, and so on, or some of those numbers might turn into 2s.
And certainly look for some of these drivers jumping up as we get to the course of the race and the qualifying in a few moments' time, because with the time's just so close between these drivers, it's going to be very important that they get every last thousandth of a second, and the qualifying is going to be coming up in just a few moments' time. Rennie Butler and Lewis McLeod taking you through that action, so we'll just have a little bit of a small transmission to take you over to those guys, but we wish you a very good broadcast, and we'll see you in the next one.
16 minutes of racing action coming your way with the rFactor 2 Formula Pro Series. I was close to say GT Pro Series, but that's obviously completely wrong. But we're back with round 2 of the championship. My name is Randy Putler, and alongside I've got Lewis McLeod, obviously the voice to have when it's about a Pro Series. And Lewis, we got Spa behind us, even though that wasn't the trailer to begin with, and we saw the highlights in the pre-show with Aiden and Cameron. But now we're heading over to your home country, UK, for the next race.
Yeah, we certainly are. It's a circuit which is going to provide a different style of racing than what we saw at Spa. Spa was all about the slipstream down into Les Combes, using DRS to get through. This is all going to be about tyre strategy and making sure they stay alive. It is a highly abrasive circuit that does like to eat up some tyres.
It will be interesting. They talked in the pre-show already regarding the one-stop strategy. That seems to be the way to go. Might be a bit different in Silverstone when looking at tyre wear in general, right? Although, I have to say, I'm not expecting too many experiments as of right now because it's so close in terms of the points.
It's too tight for some of these teams to take a risk. Some of them want to play it a little bit safe, especially if they're a bit further down in the championship, maybe just trying to consolidate themselves, get out of the relegation zone, which realistically speaking, it's only a 6-round championship. I know obviously we're speaking about this kind of stuff very, very early, but that's because we have to. It's such a tight championship that if you make mistakes on more than one round, then you're going to be at the bottom of the championship, and you might be departing Formula Pro before it's even really begun and got into the meat of it.
It just run round and then we're halfway through, basically. But I think one of the teams that's out there hunting for revenge is probably Red Bull Racing Esports, because they had a great lineup, they had a good-looking race in terms of performance early on, but it kind of fell apart throughout the hour of racing, and now they find themselves a bit further down the leaderboard than they probably expected.
Yeah, it's not been a great run. They tried the 2-stop. Alex Siebel got into plenty of woes, mostly down into poo, to be perfectly honest. Dennis Jordan tried a 2-stop, didn't work. Except the fastest lap of the race, at least for some sort of consolidation to show that they have some decent pace within that car. But realistically speaking, it was not the round they wanted. Same for the likes of Wolves, and same for the likes of Mercedes as well. Remember that Pajic had a bit of a technical issue, a drama, a gremlin coming out of pit lane, and had an enormous issue whilst Bunner House went on to win the race. They aren't leading the championship because that's all about Redline right now, with the consistency with the second and third.
Yeah, that must have been tough, but this is the difference between Formula Pro and the GT Pro Series, right? This is all down to team standings, and that's what everyone's looking at. So far, there is Team Redline, as I said, with Kevin Siggy and rFactor currently leading, and they had a really, really good race. Solid. They were not many question marks, even across the entire race. Not a single lap where we doubted that they will have a good result. And I think that's something that Mercedes-AMG Petronas really missed last time with the second driver, Pajic, not being up to what Bonner House was doing. But do you think there's a transfer now coming to the second race? I mean, Bonner House is probably someone that can give you knowledge and help you to get up to pace, especially since his teammate is definitely not one that's slow in these cars normally.
No, I mean, it's kind of a bit of a hard one to work out. We don't really know the form book. The only bits that we do know is that Redline are fast. Jeffrey Rietveld had pole position last time out. Didn't win the race, though, and that was a change coming down into Les Combes on the very first lap. And then Bunner House went on to lead 33 laps of the race. Kevin Siggy leading 2 in the pit lane sequence. But outside of that, it was domination from the Dutchman. Here, I mean, I've had a little look at the form book. I like to go back on some stats. Of course, we don't really have many stats to fall back on in Formula Pro, but we do have those GT Pro ones to go back on when it comes to pole position and translating here. The first time we ever raced in GT Pro, it was Rudy Van Buren who took pole position, then won the race. Reverse grid pole, Hani Al-Sabti won the race. Then it was Nikodem Wisniewski on pole position in Season 3. Guess what? Won the race. It's a good trend, and pole position is critical around this track.
We're jumping right into qualification, and compared to Challenge, where we had to wait very, very long to actually see cars on the track, it's a bit different here in the Formula Pro Series in Silverstone, as we got roughly 13 minutes to go still, and there are a few times on the board, and look at that, Bonner House is leading once again.
Yeah, straight up onto pole position. A reminder as to how qualifying works here is they do not have an infinite amount of laps to run with over the entirety of this session. In a sense, they only have 2 flying laps. They can do it realistically because they've got a limit of 6 laps. They can do an out lap and 4 flying laps and an in lap, but realistically speaking, no one is going to do that because the tyres, they burn out way too fast around here. Your ideal scenario is to treat it as if it's a super pole session with 2 flying laps rather than anything else. And so you've got to go out there, you've got to make the most of it. You've got 20 minutes though to use that time, so there's no real worries of traffic. If you're getting caught up in traffic, you are doing it wrong around here. I mean, it's a decent 5.9 kilometre circuit at Silverstone, so there's plenty of space to make the most of it. Martin Stefanko joins us in the championship. He was replaced by Jakub Brzezinski last round out. Mr. Super Sub, it must be said. Brzezinski had a great drive, ended up in 7th spot, so Stefanko's got the work to do to match it. Goes up to 5th in this qualifying session.
Yeah, good start for him now. Finally being in the car, as he said, he had a replacement last race, and that is the same for Bia's competition as well, as they're fielding a new driver rather than having Ellen Terzic. So there are a few changes here and there, and there's a reserve driver for all of these teams that are allowed to be called up, basically. And I want to point out, though, even if it's 11 minutes still on the clock, we see Jajowski currently in 3rd, and Jajowski did not really have the same impact on Formula Pro like he had on GT Pro, but maybe Silverstone is something that suits his driving style a bit better now.
Yeah, he's a driver that knows consistency to win championships. Marcel Cinchik, a race winner in GT Challenge when they first came here, if I remember correctly, from pole position. It was a long time ago, over a year. Marcel Cinchik across the line to top the session, go to 5th rather, for Varga. On board with Adam Maguire for Wolves GR Esports, who looked very impressive in the early stages of Spa, but then a little bit of fading. Liam Duval, his teammate, managed to grab 4th position, but Maguire dropped right down the order. It was not the round that Maguire would have wanted, finishing in 17th place at the end of that day, and also I think getting a bit of a penalty, 10 seconds to his name to add to that. Looking to bounce back from it. We know that they've got some decent pace, but that is not how you do Magnus Beck's Chapel.
I mean, you do it if you want to be in a Ruben Correa Alves slow-mo, that's for sure.
Right.
I mean, that's just the right way getting into it, but yeah, it's not the quickest, and seems like he's struggling with that car a lot. I mean, we saw him first fighting with oversteer basically, and now it was like a 4-wheel drift at the apex there, and then the rear swung around, and it kind of cost him a ton of time, and it cost him his approach here. And as you said previously, you have very limited laps. Time is fine, but the laps are an issue. And you want to make sure that whenever you're out there, you're really on top of your game and able to do your best. Peter Bialek, that's the next one. He's already DRS enabled, so does the Red Bull Racing Esports car in the background. I have to say, I absolutely love that. We've got Williams in the foreground, Red Bull in the background. I mean, this is the real thing, basically.
Yeah, it really is.
He
Love
has
to see it.
first sector, +1. It's not that bad for Peter Bialek. He's currently in 24th without a time listed, obviously. So we will wait for his very first one. Seems like we get that slow motion already. We do. Adam Maguire, the first one today to get the achievement unlocked here to get a slow-mo of his own driving.
Yeah, he's not going to be the last one. I'm going to say around a venue like this, we're probably going to see quite a few more slow-mos of that kind of caliber, where it's such an undulating circuit, lots of ups and downs, and that's on the bigger scale. Whilst it's one of the classic, old British airfields that was turned into a racetrack, so in a realistic sense, in comparison to like Spa, it's very flat, but there are a lot of bumps on this track. It's kind of a bit all over the place. There's stuff where you wouldn't really expect crests and rises and whatnot. Better Berliak, though, across the line, 24th position as he crosses the line to 14th. The driver who has won a race around here in the Formula Sim Racing World Championship in 2020, so a little bit of experience around here in a decent quality series. When you come into this, it's so very strong. But then you've got plenty of drivers like Jerne Simoncic, like Alex Siebel, Dennis Jordan, etc., that he's used to racing with. Maybe the likes of Bunner House, Jeffrey Rietveld, that he's not so used to racing with. They're right at the top. Pajic has already gone out for his final lap of this session, up in 4th spot at the moment, 3/10 off a pole. Looking pretty good for Mercedes right now, to be perfectly honest. 1st and 4th.
Yeah, it's like if Pajic can stay close to Bunner House this time, then they are probably the favourites here, although they're still Team Redline, right? And we see Kevin Siggy now going up to 4th, sending Pajic down to 5th, and also getting closer to his teammate, which is Rietveld, a bit further up. And we'll get another replay. That is Peter Bialek again, and he's losing his rear wing. What happened there? It seems to be very slow on the track, and even rolled over. That was an expensive crash.
Which burst was that? Was that Michi Hoyer? Now, this is actually, that could be, because if Hoyer was on whichever one it was, whether it was Simoncic or Hoyer, I think it was Hoyer, based on the fact that he's down in 22nd position. I'll get a word on that at some point. But that will be, to be honest, a pretty substantial penalty for Petter Berliak, because they don't have that many time laps, and if there's a circuit where you want to qualify well, it'll be this one, trust me, because it's not one that bodes well if you have to start down the order, and that's exactly what Dennis Jordan needs to avoid, where his second sector is not good. 20th at the moment. His teammate Seaball's up in 13th. But yeah, if you have an incident like that, oh god, there's another one going around. You've had your lap time basically thrown out the window before it's even started. That's one of your allotted laps gone already for the likes of Michi Hoyer, or Yannis. It was Michi Hoyer, I did believe so. Watch this, committing to a time lap through turn 1. Petter Berliak's just on the racing line. That's a pretty slam dunk penalty if I'm honest.
Yeah, it seems like he was not on a flying lap. He was basically cruising around, and Michi Hoyer, not many chances to react anyway, because as soon as you try to do something there, like braking slightly, going off throttle, you risk to spin it off track anyway. So it was not like he had many choices. Unfortunately, catch the back of the Williams Esports driver. Bonnehaus out now for his second attempt. Obviously, he currently is the leader. He's sitting on pole position already, with not much between him and Rietveld, though. And then Yayovsky right behind. Will be interesting to see if we see a lead change, though, in the last 5 minutes. I would say Spa was kind of chaotic at the end. We saw a lot of people going through the leaderboards, and there's still a few drivers out there that can probably do better than what they do. For example, John Laser Esports Academy. I mean, Casper Stolzer, after his spin without a time so far, his teammate Jordi Suez nowhere near the top 10 so far. Patel still without a lap time for BS competition. By the way, MAG does not stand for Magnussen. He did not switch from Formula 1 to drive in the 2 Pro Series. But that's Maguire also without a time.
Yeah, there's a few drivers down, like you say, Casper Stolzer down there. Maguire, they're able to start their final laps, but we know that Maguire's been really, really struggling with the balance and bails from it. So that is Maguire's day done. We'll focus on Bonnehaus, though, our pole sitter at present, at 27.1. We were more expecting times based on practice in the higher echelons of the 26s, maybe even a bit faster than that. But realistically speaking, the track has slowed down somewhat, a slight increase, I think, on temperature of the track surface, and they're just not going as quick as they were. Bonnehaus doesn't really care one bit, because as long as he is on pole position, that is it sorted. And here he goes through one of the fastest sections of racetrack that we will see all season. It was Bianca Lilla, by the way, who got up into 8th spot, caused that yellow flag, so we don't need to worry about that. Purple in the middle sector. This is looking like it could be an improvement. Could it be a 26 from Bonnehaus, our championship leader, our race winner from Spa, looking to do the double on his return to official rFactor 2 competition, coming through the club chicane and out of the final corner. I'm thinking this is going to be an improvement, but to what? A 27.1 to beat across the line, a 27.099, so improving by hundredths, not tenths, and maybe that'll be good enough for pole.
Yeah, let's hope for that. I mean, he looked very serious on the cam that we had in his cockpit. I have to say, hair game was on point. Normally when I saw Bonnehaus, his hair was always like a bit messy, creative, let's say. And now he looked absolutely slick, so can't go wrong with that. Michel De Alessandro, only on 13 for BS competition. That is the driver replacing Alan Terzic at the Munich, I want to say team is probably correct, race team. Dennis Jordan, 21st so far. And definitely not what is it he is looking for the Red Bull Racing Esports team going over the curb. That was a bit aggressive, I would say. More airtime than some of the skateboarders at the Olympics, I would say. And that is kind of an impressive finish to it.
Yeah, he was not happy with that one bit, and you can kind of understand why. He wants to be battling higher up, knows he can be battling higher up, and disappointment after just a few too many mistakes. It's a high-pressure scenario of driving a very, very difficult car around a very difficult circuit when you only have a couple of laps, and how to push that one to the limit is exceptionally difficult. Valeriano, one of the drivers, I believe, with a penalty from last round, comes across the line 22nd spot, so a little bit of an improvement, but nothing too major. By the way, with Michele De Alessandro to that point as Siebel completes his final lap. Danny Kish as well on his final one. Jan van der Heide, his teammates, not involved in the mix, who looked all right in practice. But Michele De Alessandro was the race winner in Formula Challenge, so he's done well so far in 2021 in our brand new Formula Series. But I mean, 13th, I think he might be a little bit disappointed. I know it's moving up into the upper echelons of Formula Pro, but still, I don't think he'll be particularly happy with that, as Danny Kish is making a real meal of this final sector of the racetrack.
Yeah, once again, very unstable coming out, and seems like the drivers are struggling with grip on the track, and we see more and more small corrections, even though here with Kevin Siggy, and his middle sector is looking really, really strong. That's a purple one. Let's see if Siggy can get into the front row, or maybe even on pole position now, because that's what he's hunting for. And it wasn't meant to happen. Stays in fourth. And with that, at least separating Pecic. But there is Rietveld coming in. New pole position time. Sending Bonnerhaus down to second in, just the last seconds of, or the last minute, 1.5 minutes now, on this qualification session. So Redline first and fourth, and Mercedes is second and fifth. So that will probably be the big fight as of today, because there's no other team besides Varga Sim Racing having 2 drivers so far in the top 14.
Yeah, that is impressive once again from Team Redline and Mercedes. It looks like we're going to see this battle. If I'm going to say if there's going to be 2 teams that we're going to watch battle throughout this championship, it will be those 2, because they are just looking like leaps and bounds ahead of everyone else. They've really figured out this car. That said, Hanuyovsky getting up into 3rd spot's very good for him. But Rietveld at the dying moments, once again, back up onto pole position. What's Mohamed Patel going to do? 21st position. Does move up to just behind his teammate Michele D'Alessandro. Marcel Chinchik is the last one on the track, but he's just completed his lap time anyway. That, with 35 seconds of the session to go, is actually the session over. Everyone has completed their mandated lap times. Michi Hoyer, by the way, did get one on the board. It was only good enough for 19th spot. Rietveld, though, the one we're speaking of, once again, back onto pole position.
Yeah, absolutely lovely there. He was just on point, even with all the pressure from the end of the session. He managed to cut a bit of time there on Bonnerhaus' lap, and I assume Bonnerhaus will not be super happy, because he had that good second approach, and he could probably have been a tad quicker. I mean, what we're talking about, 0.999 versus 0.993. So it's absolutely nothing between those guys.
Yeah, it's exceptionally close. Once again, 6,000th of a second. Last round, it was over a tenth. It was 0.122 of a second. Now we're talking about 6,000ths of a second for Jeffrey Rietveld. I think they'll be a bit disappointed. I mean, we saw a lot of people coming across the line being disappointed in their lap. It looked very, very difficult out there. I mean, it's a hard track to drive at the best of times, but in a car so difficult, it really did show it. And Rietveld's time across the actual lap wasn't amazing, but it was the final sector that was completely nailed and ended up jumping up onto pole position for the 2nd consecutive week.
That will definitely help him. The question is, can he stay in front of Bonnerhaus this time? Because last time he was permanently in chasing mode, basically trying to get back onto Bonnerhaus, and that did not work at all. He has Kevin Siggy obviously in the 2nd row, so right behind. So Kevin Siggy is starting 4th, so that should give him the right side of the grid behind Bonnerhaus. So it will be a very interesting start with all these characters in there, especially since I said that a few times, even in GT Pro, I'm a big Kevin Siggy fan. I like Seaman Racing, and I think it's the right mixture of being calm, collected, and ice cold, but also showing some degree of aggressiveness.
Well, let's take a look at our grid. Same front row as last week, where we've got Jeffrey Rietveld and Bonnerhaus on the front row, but a better qualifying session from Erhan Yovsky puts him in 3rd, ahead of Kevin Siggy, who moved up onto the podium last week. Marco Pajic from 5th position with Martin Stefanko. First round in the championship in P6, with Marcel Chinchik and Manuel Biancalilla behind in 8th spot. To round out the top 10, though, we've got Yuri Toman and Jerne Simoncic, race winner here already this year in Open Wheelers, with Nuno Pinto actually qualifying this time, up in 11th spot ahead of Danny Kish for Rocket Sim Sport. Michele D'Alessandro, your Formula Challenge winner at Spa, will be alongside his teammate Mohamed Patel on the 7th row of the grid, and Alex Siebel, the best of the Red Bull Racings, in just 15th. Risto Capit, with such a good start at Spa, he'll have to do that once again from 16th spot. Peter Berliak and Liam Deval, not a good qualifying sessions from Wolves GR, with Michi Hoyer off that disappointment in qualifying, and contact between himself and Peter Berliak has Gianmarco Viducci joining him on row number 10. GT Pro champion Jan van der Heide goes alongside Dennis Jordan, the two battlers of that season. Giordano Valeriano and Jordi Zviers on the penultimate row of the grid. Casper Stolzer and Adam Maguire, who's been struggling to actually remain in the session, to be perfectly honest. He's been dropping out of it quite a lot in practice. Will line up from the final row of the grid. John Lacey Sports Academy saying they've been a bit struggling to get time out onto the track realistically. They've not had the most amount of laps, and you're kind of seeing that struggle. You need to put in the work if you're going to go fast here.
That's true. It's not an easy championship to be in front, right? It's a new car, it's a new format, so you can't really rely on the experience you had before. Even if you're an FSR champion, you might be used to open wheelers, but you're not used to this car. And looking at the names on the grid, this is probably the biggest Formula Series out there on the internets, I would say, and in terms of stacked up skills. Well, let's see how they do. And it's also one of the few, or for me actually, the last year is the only one with a standing start. And I adore that, because that is a crucial moment, and so much can go wrong and so much can go absolutely right to have a blistering start.
Yeah, remember back to Spa, I said that Risto Kappa had a good launch. It was Jerne Simoncic, who we were riding on board with on that start, who I can confirm has actually joined in the correct car this time. He is in the number 17, not taking the number 10 for the second consecutive week. He had such a good launch and worked up plenty of positions on that run down into turn 1, but it's a short run here as well into a much faster corner than La Source. Abbey will greet them after mere seconds into this race. It's Jeffrey Rietveld, it's Bunner House on the front row of the grid for the second consecutive week. Yayovsky and Siggy, your GT Pro contenders, were sitting on third and fourth. We are underway for round number 2 in the Formula Pro Series powered by Traction.gg, and there's already contact up the line. And so Yayovsky had a better launch than both Jeffrey Rietveld and Bunner House. He's going to have to settle for third spot though, as they're going through in the background. Kevin Siggy and Marco Pejic are going side by side. It is Jeffrey Rietveld leading the way at the moment though, and this time it looks like it might hold.
He did everything right. He was really aggressive when defending, but he knows that if he gives way to Bonner House super early, he probably runs away with it. But this time, Rietveld is still in control off the grid, and Kevin Siggy tries to make a move up once again after losing a position to the Mercedes-AMG Petronas esports driver Pejic here. It's now up to 4th, and Kevin sees his teammate leading, and he wants to follow immediately.
Well, it was Siggy who was making all the moves in the early stages of Spa, working up into a potential battle for a podium, but then was 3 wide off of Radion with himself, with Erhan Yayovsky and with Mohamed Patel after a little bit of a mistake, a little bit of a snap, and great quick reactions from Siggy to keep on top of it. The Slovenian, though, having to settle for 5th spot at the moment. Rietveld, though, hanging on to the lead now, already pulling it out, showing how big the dirty air is around this track. Already getting to 1.1 seconds of a lead. He is firing on all cylinders right now, but you have to worry, potentially he might be burning his tyres out.
Yeah, that's the big question here, right? How aggressive do you want to be from the start? And Bonner House is someone that can play the long game, that just sits there. He's confident in his skills and his driving, and he will probably just follow along, try to manage the car, do everything right, and then there might be a window opening at one point for him to take down Rietveld.
Yeah, that's it. You've just got to keep him under pressure right now. Do exactly what was done last week. Bonner House did not crumble under the pressure in the early stages, and I don't think Rietveld will as well, but you've got to try. That's the only thing you can do in the mid-pack, though. Look at this battling that we had between Gianmarco Fiducci, Petter Berliak. We're riding on board with Dennis Jordan, who's still in 22nd. Adam Maguire's made up a couple of positions. We've got a yellow flag out in Sector 1. Not sure who's the causer of that, but clearly someone in strife.
It's a bit more messy down there, but I would say we really had clean racing here for lap 1, similar to what we saw in Spa, and that was Björk on the inside of Jan van der Heide. Luckily, they did not touch. That was good and well done by both drivers. But Petter Björk not really in the striking distance yet, though, and Jan van der Heide probably unhappy with training so far behind his teammate Daniel Kiss.
Unfortunately, we've already had the retirement from the race. Manuel Biancalilla, I think it is a disconnection from the Italian who finished inside the top 10 last week. Had a penalty after contact between himself and Jan van der Heide in the latter stages that dropped him way down from that top 10 spot. But either way, on track, it was within that top 10 in an intense battle with the GT Pro champion. Down to the bottom end of the top 10, Yone Simičić has made up a couple of spots, up into 7th spot from 10th. So he's already making some decent progress, but he's got a lot of pressure on his shoulders from Martin Stefanko and the entire train behind that looks pretty tasty indeed. He's got Chinchik ahead, of driver that he's battled with quite a few times in LMP2s, and desperate to make a move at some point very, very soon, and that might help. A bit of a mistake from Chinchik.
Yeah, he ran way too wide, not really getting the proper entry into the corner right in front, although we're on board now with Kevin Siggy, who's not really that close to Mark Pesic. He wants to be like a bit closer now for the next stretch, basically, if he wants to look up the inside. But you see that every single time, like on the apex, he gets really, really close. But on the exit, the Mercedes is just blasting away. It seems to be a bit quicker, getting more traction out of the turn. Although Kevin Siggy, not as much corrections on the steering wheel as we see on most of the other drivers.
Someone who was trying to make some decent progress there was actually getting by Liam de Waal before de Waal managed to hang on, was Jan van der Heide, after starting from 19th spot up, yes, only to 18th, but I've seen him time and time again trying to make moves down into Brooklands, which we've seen from a few, but this is the thing, is whilst you're in the mid-pack of a train, like take, for example, Kevin Siggy, who we're focused on now, I know it sounds a bit counterintuitive when it comes to standard open wheel racing, but the best opportunity that you're going to get to pass someone right now is when you're in the train. If you're right behind someone and it's just the two of you battling, you've almost got no hope. Whereas right now, if Siggy wants to get on the podium, he's got to get by Pejic ASAP.
Yeah, he wants to be sure that he can go the pace of the front runners, basically. But currently, no one is running the pace of Jeffrey Rietveldt, and they're side by side. Liam de Waal, was it de Waal and Jan van der Heide? Yes, it was. Liam de Waal just past van der Heide once again, but look at that, there's also Fortzilla car getting involved, and everyone being side by side with Liam de Waal kind of bunching them up once again. Williams in there as well, and Jan van der Heide probably tries to just stay clean, because you lose a front wing, you lose the rear wing, that's it then.
Adam Maguire tried making a move on Gianmarco Vidici. Vidici wasn't having anything. Liam de Waal's gone wide though, and Jan van der Heide has come through. Look at how hard they're battling in the mid-pack as we ride on boards with Peter Berliak there trying to get through. You've got Gianmarco Vidici and Adam Maguire going side by side. Maguire gaining the position on the feisty Italian behind, and Peter Berliak as well, who are on board with getting out of the slipstream there and still trying to fancy a move on Liam de Waal. Jan van der Heide has already cleared off 17th spot and has gone out of here. Maguire was closing in on Peter Berliak. They're running down into Maggots, Beckett's and Chappell, was not able to do anything. You'd have to be very brave about that's sort of late race attempts. And at the back of this train is Dennis Jordan, who we're now on board with for Red Bull Racing Esports. He'll be disappointed, but he can feel what's ahead. I mean, they were talking that the two-stop strategy is an absolute no-no. They tried it at Spa when there was a 1 second delta on tyres, and they still couldn't pass, realistically speaking. Whereas here, maybe they'll fancy something. Fiducci makes contact.
Yeah, he quickly tapped Liam de Waal there, and that dropped him down another spot, getting him right in front of Dennis Jordan now. And we know what he can do with the GT3 and GTE race cars, and definitely wants to prove the same on this open-wheeler Formula car. De Waal once again on the inside of Fiducci, and it seems like he might even make a way around it. Cuts back once again to the inside. Absolutely amazing maneuver here. But it wasn't enough, and now Dennis Jordan might get his shot.
Yeah, Fiduci's tried that a good few times in the Cooper Sim Racing Series with the undercut and switchbacks, and is very good in that. Not really too much in the sense of open wheel racing. Hasn't done it that much. Also has some slightly different equipment at the moment. I'm pretty sure he's not running the pedals that he normally would do, which when it comes to cars like this, you really do need to have a good feel for the brake. So really learning it the hard way. It is trial by combat, realistically speaking. Kevin Siggy we're on board with from the second row of the grid. You can see him rolling backwards quite a bit there, and there's that launch that I was talking about from Erhan Yayovski. It was better than the front row. He could have been leading this race, but the door was closed from Bunner House and from Jeffrey Rietveldt, who slightly came across the nose end of the Macedonian. But I mean, it was a great launch, but just not enough.
Yeah, Yayovski had nowhere to go with the car, and Ender Maguire had to actually avoid smashing the rear of a different car there at the back of the pack. But look at that, we made it through the first combinations of corners, and there wasn't a single spin. It showcases the discipline on this grid. Look at that. I mean, there are cars on every single meter of the track.
Insane how much side by side there was there. It is absolutely crazy, and that is exactly what we're going to expect all the way through this race when it comes to their battles. For example, we've got this battle here, 3 fighting for the podium: Ijovski, Pajic and Kevin Siggy. Bono House is keeping this, it's been bang on 1.1 seconds basically every single lap. The difference, that gap between the two, Jeffrey Rietveld and Bono House, 6th position. Check out the length of that train. You've got Chinchik, you've got Simoncic, you've got Martin Stefanko, Yuri Toma, Nuno Pinto, Michele D'Alessandro, Danny Kish, Risto Capit, Mohamed Patel, Alex Siebel, Michi Hoyer, all part of that train that runs from 6th all the way down to 16th spot.
Yeah, it's a huge group, and we know exactly that if someone is making a mistake there, then it throws around the leaderboard quite a lot. Tower will be busy in case it happens, and everyone needs to be aware of it. You don't want to be caught out off by someone that's spinning in front of you or losing a bit of control. We saw in the previous round that can happen fairly quickly with these cars, as they are super aggressive on the rear and really step out in a matter of blink of an eye, basically. Kevin Siggy still behind Pajic, and I have to say, it's amazing to see how close he sticks to the Mercedes AMG, and that might be the run on the inside. There's a slight touch, and hopefully none of them got damaged, but Kevin Siggy muscling his way up the leaderboard back into 4th.
Yeah, that was not an ideal angle to see it from, because it was just a little bit too tight there. I will say, at least from the angle that I saw it, that Pajic turned in. Siggy got there. I mean, it was an ambitious dive, but Pajic just absolutely dived it straight for the apex whilst Siggy was alongside the Slovenian we're riding on board with. You'll see this. It's a good arc through the corner just to get it to the inside. I mean, it's brave, but pulls it up to the apex. There's the contact. You can see there's absolutely nowhere that Siggy can go. It's an aggressive move. It's a bold move, but it's a fair move, at least in my book.
Yes, same here. And if there's no damage to his car, then it was definitely worth it. And if he's now coming closer to Ijovski or not, while we're on board with not Alan Terzic, that's just his livery, but it's the D'Alessandro, the driver who was racing in the Alpha 2 Challenge Series just Friday 2 weeks ago. Challenge obviously returning this Friday as well, if you want to see more action with these cars on rFactor 2. He does well, I would say, and so does Kevin Siggy, who closed the gap to Ijovski quite quickly, although that was a bit too much oversteer to really stay close.
Now here's a battle that we missed out on in GT Pro Season 3, wasn't it? The likes that we've seen this plenty of times in Season 1 or 2. Erhan Ijovski versus Siggy. Siggy doing exactly the same thing again, but this time being giving room from Erhan Ijovski. It was just about enough. There was a brush between the two. Ijovski's going to hang on for now. Siggy and Ijovski, a battle we've seen time and time again on rFactor 2. We are going to see it once more, but in completely different machinery than what we are used to. Oh, now this is what we're here for.
Yeah, definitely will be a great fight, but Siggy has to be aware of Pajic in the background. We saw that there he did a slight mistake. He touched Ijovski, and if he's unlucky, then the Mercedes AMG Patrons esports driver will come close immediately and go for an attack. Once again, slipstream. Obviously, these cars relying massively on ground force rather than pure error from the wings, so you can follow a bit closer, but with all these flowing corners in Silverstone, it's really hard with dirty air, no matter how much ground force you can actually build up.
Yeah, it's very, very tight indeed. You're absolutely right. I was saying this before, when you're that second car in line trying to attack whoever's in front, it's actually quite difficult, and it almost puts a bit more of an advantage on the third car in train, just with how things are being a bit tight. Bit of a moment there from Erhan Ijovski. Don't get me wrong, everyone has a hard task in this little group, this battle for the podium, which I kind of feel they have to accept that it's now a battle for third, because the top two have cleared out 8 seconds. Jeffrey Rietveld and Bono House, they've been lapping in the 29s basically every single lap outside of the second completed lap, where it was a mid-28s from them. The race pace from those two has been, to be honest, about what I was told it should be. There goes Siggy back to the inside, once again diving it. That's a little bit close. Once again, a brush between the two of them. Ijovski's going to hold it firm around the outside as they head on to the Wellington straight down to Brooklands. Ijovski in control once again for that podium spot, but Siggy's not done yet. It's got to be done around the outside of Brooklands. This is a move that is absolutely on. There's contact between the two, and Ijovski goes round. Pajic comes through, and Pajic back onto the podium.
Kevin Siggy, I mean, he makes up one spot but loses one immediately after. Not quite sure what happened there, and if we would have to blame one of the drivers or it was just unlucky. I mean, that move looked absolutely fine, and it's possible around the outside, but at some point, it seems like Yayovsky got a touch or was just too quick on throttle. I would love to see that in the replay from his perspective, maybe, if that was just too much throttle applied and the rear came around and that basically caused this, or if there was that contact. But look at this battle group. There's one everywhere we can look at. Daniel Kiss on the back of biggest competition in Fordzilla. Fordzilla up there is Nuno Pinto, and then it's D'Alessandro in the zebra colored car. I would say it's not colored because zebras are normally not blue, although they are if they're from Munich.
Yeah, absolutely. By the way, you see that snap from Martin Stefanko we're riding on board with just in the foreground, running down into Stowe, trying to get by Jerne Simičić going around the outside. I will say, by the way, I did see the racing between Yayovsky and Siggy from a slightly different angle, which I'm sure we're going to see here on board with Pajic. There was contact. It is right about here. And now... It's kind of one of those things. You're going through what is a very difficult corner. You're side by side. There's very little between you. The slightest brush when you're on the limit of adhesion like that, you're going round. I don't know how I'd call that one. I'd almost be tentative and just say it was a racing incident. They're both racing hard. Yayovsky's a little bit further off the left-hand side than maybe he should be. You could argue that Siggy's holding him tight. I think it's just a racing incident. At
least from the perspective we had, but I still wonder... Oh, it's a touch to the front tyre of Yayovsky. All right, it wasn't him losing traction, which would be unlikely. I mean, Yayovsky is an absolute pro, but it was that slight touch by Kevin Siggy. Both paid the price for it. I mean, Siggy is 4th, Yayovsky is 5th, so at least they only lost one position. Good news for Mercedes AMG Petronas esports team, obviously, because now they got Bonnehaus and... Pajic. Oh, I'm really struggling with how I want to go with that name in terms of pronunciation every single time and still adjusting to it, kinda. He's in 3rd now. I mean, they're looking strong. Redline, Mercedes, Redline.
Yeah, and this is the thing is that Mercedes need to start making up some points already straight from the go on Redline, which they actually wouldn't realistically be doing right now because of the 35 to 30 point, it's a 5-point gap between 1st and 2nd, and it's not bigger than that between 3rd and 4th. So Redline would still be scoring better than Mercedes AMG Petronas at the moment, but realistically speaking, it's not a bad spot. We're looking at Jan van der Heijden now, who's closed up into this battle for 10th spot, which, by the way, at the front of it, Nuno Pinto's missed the apex, running into this sort of loop, this tighter section that was built back in 2010. And Michele D'Alessandro was trying to get through on Pinto there. Fordzilla, remember that Pinto did finish in 10th spot in GT Pro here, got reversed up onto the pole position, unfortunately disconnected from that race in Season 3. D'Alessandro down the inside. Now, that is a bit of a send. Let's go with that. Made contact with Nuno Pinto's opened the door for Danny Kish, the Hungarian, to come through. There's going to be a bit of a brush between the two of them as they depart Luffield again. And this time, I think Kish might have the drive of the corner. Side by side into Cops. Well, let's see if we can do it in Formula Pro. Well, they're not even going to try. Yeah, Nuno Pinto had to slot that there. He didn't really have the pace to keep up with the Rocket Sim Sport car. And now he might be an easy target for Aristo Capit right behind. And then it's Alex Siebel from Red Bull down there as well behind Patel. So this is a huge fighting group. I mean, look at that. As soon as you go for a move, there's probably 1 or 2 drivers right behind that take you down in case you just lose a bit of traction coming out. Yeah, it's such a tight battle pack. Let's take a look at this slow-mo. This will be the contact between Yayovsky and Siggy. I'm absolutely sure of it. Just waiting for them to come into shot. There they are. And a nice classic trademark Ruben Carrera Alves slow-mo to take us through the midway point of action here at Silverstone. We're just actually over a quarter of the way through the race, so we've had plenty of action, and that is one of them. I'm sure Siggy will be calling it a racing incident. I'm sure Yayovsky will be saying, nah, he spun me round and I lost a couple of places from it. That could cost me the podium at the end of the day. And Yayovsky is way off the back and potentially dropping into the clutches of Chinchik, which obviously with that, when you've had a slide like that, you've basically destroyed your tyres. It loses so much percentage, which right now, especially when thermal degradation's the real key talking point here at Silverstone, they're going to be he's going to be losing a lot more time and will be dropping into the clutches of Chinchik and the entire train that follows. Yeah, I think that's the biggest worry for Yayovsky right now. It's not that Chinchik might close his
up to him and makes a move. But as soon as you get into this fighting group and you're the one with the ruined tires, because you're absolutely right, these tires are for show now, not really that great on the car anymore, but it's too early for a pit stop, so it will hurt him a lot if he gets caught up in that train. So he wants to stay away. While we see Kevin Siggy overtook Page.
In the pit lane.
Or did he pull in?
Yeah, he's pulled into the pit lane. Kevin Siggy with a very early stop, potentially
more damage maybe than we thought.
Maybe, but I think it's more so heading for attempting something a bit rapid here and going for a two-stop strategy. Comes into the pit lane anyway. I didn't think a two-stop was going to work, and I still will maintain that. But alas, Siggy's into the pit lane and is giving it a go anyway. I don't think he's going to be able to try a one-stop from here. The tyres just, they will not have a good day. And that was a short pit stop as well. I don't think he's maximised the fuel intake. This is a two-stop strategy from Kevin Siggy and from Team Redline, which is exactly what Mercedes-AMG Petronas wanted.
See, that is Siggy. He's just pulled in, and then obviously he was listed as third because he overtake on the inside, kinda. Let's hope he wasn't too quick.
That's okay.
Yeah. Never know. Stewards have a close look at all of that. But it is our first pit stop of the day, and they will all have to come in at least once. We talked about that. Kevin Siggy from Team Redline might even come in twice. Who knows? But not as quick yet as a real-world pit stop, I would say.
No, that's obviously they take fuel here as well, so we're not expecting them to see like 3, 4 second 2, 1, 1.9. Any other bits? No, realistically speaking, I think that's a shorter pit stop than what we saw back at Spa from most of them, so I'm pretty sure that is locked into a two-stop strategy. Maybe trying to repair some of the damage, I'm not 100% sure. Maybe just trying to get off the tyres. I wonder if Yovsky will also be down at some point, or if he's just going to take his lumps and try and hang on to fourth. The battle for the race lead as we ride on board with the Dutchman of Bono House and Jeffrey Rietveld, his compatriot and fellow teammate. They've been teammates, I said this before, they were teammates 9-10 years ago in sim racing. They've worked with each other an awful lot. They've departed. This was back in the Precision Motorsport days in GT Omega, if you can remember that far back. But realistically speaking, now teamed up at Redline and Bono House, they're not playing the team game here. They don't care. Like, whilst yes, Bono House, Redline, whatever, Mercedes is the brand that he is representing here. He doesn't give one damn about Redline right now. He wants to attack. He wants to win.
Yeah, he's wearing the Mercedes polo shirt already, so he's definitely geared up for this battle. And he was, you said it before, was stable around 1.2 seconds. Now it's down shortly below half a second, so he can close that gap. And I'm wondering if the 1.2 was actually just him managing the tires, and now Jeffrey Rietveld coming into the pits in action-packed fashion, I would say. I mean, these tires he don't want to run anyway, so he can get rid of them. But let's hope that was not a penalty. Did manage to get and to stay at least on the tarmac. Page also coming in, so another AMG Petronas car. Right behind means they will probably not change a lot. Yovsky should pass Rietveld now. Yeah, he's going up to second. Bono House, the new leader.
Oh.
I wonder if we're completely wrong with them all running for one-stop strategy.
Look at this from Rietveld, though. Look at the traffic he's out in. This is the risk. This is why we were saying that two-stop strategies are not ideal. From the lead of the race down into the mid-pack. And this is perfect for the house. I was going to say the undercut is the ideal strategy here. But for Jeffrey Rietveld behind Yuri Toma, Martin Stefanko, Jerne Simoncic as well. Marcel Cimcik's just a little bit ahead of that. And, of course, Erhan Yovsky's down the road. I'm a little bit baffled. We'll see what the superior grip, which should be quite a large margin here between Jeffrey Rietveld and the pack ahead of him. Yuri Toman, is he going to fight him hard? Oh, that's very, very tight, running through Woodcote to the inside at Copse Corner, not going to commit to it. And every corner that he goes through in this pack, he is losing time. Rietveld potentially going to make something into maggots. I think he's got to wait until the end of the hangar straight and until Stowe.
Yeah, there's no chance for him here with limited lines available basically on these cars to make it through alive. And he even lost a bit of time in the dirty air. Now they all got DRS. But yeah, that will keep him away actually from doing anything. Bono House also in. So all the pit stops so far before we cross the halfway point.
and a slightly longer stop as well from Bunnerhaus. So not major, but it means you'll have to take less fuel a bit later on in the race. We are, I am saying it right now, based on these, the pit stop time they're coming in, based on how short their pit stops are, this is a two-stop strategy confirmed. Bunnerhaus out of the pit lane trying to jump. Jeffrey Rietveld is not going to do so. Rietveld comes through after passing Jiri Toman, but importantly so, Bunnerhaus is right on the rear end of Jeffrey Rietveld, doesn't have to pass Jiri Toman. This is the battle potentially for the race lead. Now with it being open on strategy, I don't know if that is a guaranteed race lead. I don't know if Yujovski's going to end up coming out on top of this even after the spin. If Yujovski is in contention for the win, how angry will he be about that spin now from Kevin Siggy?
The bigger problem I see for Yujovski is, let's assume he would be on a one-stop strategy, thinking that this will work, right? Then he comes in and Bunnerhaus will come in again as they're probably on the two-stop strategy while Jeffrey Rietveld is maneuvering through traffic now, taking down Martin Stefanko. But he's the one on ruined tires, right? Because he had the spin with Kevin Siggy. So if you want to run these tires longer than the rest, then you would love them to be in better shape than they are right now. And Bunnerhaus so lucky, I have to say, coming out of the pits in front of Toman and not having to overtake him. He's now already attacking Jeffrey Rietveld on the inside, and that will work. 180-degree right-hander. A lot of space available there. And so now Bunnerhaus taking down Jeffrey Rietveld, who tried there a look at the outside into the chicane. No chance for him at all. And as he said, that might be the change for the lead now, depending on the strategies out there.
Yeah, look at this. You can see that Rietveld doesn't really fight it, which I think is a bizarre move if you're trying to battle for the championship. But either way, door was open. It did try coming back a little bit into club, but alas, the positions remained as they are. Bunnerhaus, fourth spot now on the rear end of a driver. Between the two of them, this is effectively 8 Formula Sim Racing World Championships between Jerne Simoncic and Bunnerhaus. I say 8. It's realistically at 7, but I mean, Simoncic is in control to try and take his third title. Down the inside, Bunnerhaus takes third spot away. Marcel Cincic's next, and then way down the road is Erhan Yujovski. Now, you may think that there's a 5.5 second gap, and obviously if there's an extra pit stop as well, then this is a legitimate gap. But remember that Haus and Rietveld's pit stop will be shorter than Yujovski's anyway, so he's got a grip advantage and a pit stop time advantage to the tune of a couple of seconds as well, because if Yujovski's doing a one stop, he has to put a bit more fuel in than what Haus will have to put in to get to the end of the race from this point. So realistically speaking, that gap might be neutralised all the way down to 0, but we're expecting Yujovski into the pit lane soon. We're expecting Haus to make a move on Marcel Cincic, who may put up a bit of a fight here, not defending, and Haus to the inside, Haus to second, and this is looking good for Bunnerhaus right now.
Yeah, I mean, he now has a proper gap between him and Rietveld, which is probably what he was aiming for. And as he said, Yujovski has to pit a bit longer, which probably sends him down further at the tower. And I would say right now that Bunnerhaus put absolutely everything right around halfway mark now. I mean, look at that gap. Rietveld is down to 4th, when Bunnerhaus went through it like it's absolutely nothing.
Yeah, just look at this. This is the move on Cincic. Cincic not fighting. By the way, Jerne Simoncic didn't fight Jeffrey Rietveld when he made a move at Abbey as well. So they are battling hard, it must be said, and they need to do so. Here's Pajic in the middle of the pack as well, trying to get by Michi Hoyer, and makes that move stick. But Pajic way down in proceedings, 15th spot. Kevin Siggy's only a few spots ahead of him. You can see they're just coming through shot in 12th as we ride back on board with Siggy's teammate Jeffrey Rietveld. He will try and make a move on Marcel Cincic, but I think this is going to be this needs to be a good run through Cops and a move into Maggots, which he's not done. I mean, that's a bold move if ever I've seen one, but to be fair, we did see that exact move from Bunnerhaus on Martin Stefanko. That's exactly how he got through. That's not where we see plenty of dives. I mean, to see Max Verstappen give that one a good go a few years ago, but alas, on this occasion, I think it's going to go the way of Rietveld here.
Yeah, he should be in a good position. He has the DRS available to him as well. Cincic on the inside, which sends Rietveld around the outside, but still enough grip with those new tyres. And he's just pulling off that move there. Now he's in the better position to go into the chicane. Luckily, no touch there between the tyres. And Jeffrey Rietveld now finally up the 3rd, which pits him behind Bunnerhaus, but already with a gap of roughly 3 seconds. Definitely not what he wanted to be, because when Bunnerhaus came out of the pits, he was right behind Rietveld.
fantastic onboard here of Marco Pajic to get by Michi Hoyer. You can see a bit of a slide there and sends it down the inside and makes the move. Hoyer not really fighting that one too hard. I think Marcel Chinchik, by the way, might be a bit, as Michi Hoyer comes into the pit lane for potentially a one and only stop of the race. Yeah, I think Marcel Chinchik might be a bit of a Bono House fan, considering how easily he let Bono through and how hard he fought Rietveld. I mean, a bit odd, but, you know, making friends and making enemies at the same time.
It could also be down to how he felt with the car at that moment, right? They're certainly very twitchy, and you don't want to lose your entire race just because you tried to block Bono House and was probably a lot quicker than Chinchik, at least right now. The loser definitely is Pajic. I mean, he was, fourth, I think, when he pitted, fourth or third at that moment, actually. And he found himself down in 15th. That's a lot of cars to overtake, to be honest.
Oh, by the way, sorry, I've just seen some side-by-side between Pinto and Capit. 11th spot, Kevin Siggy's just got through on Nuno Pinto, but you can tell where they are on the racetrack. They were side-by-side through Mackets and Beckett's. Incredible stuff. There's into the pit lane, Simoncic after his teammate Michi Hoyer. There goes Risto Capit around the outside. Pajic as well, a part of this battle, and will try and pick up the pieces as well. Is there going to be a dive? Michele D'Alessandro also into the pit lane, looking to the inside the Mercedes. AMG Petronas Esports driver on Team Ford. No way through on the switchback, though. Is going to be side by side, is going to make up that move on Nuno Pinto. That was a good effort, a well-judged attempt, and now involved in the mix is Mohamed Patel.
Yeah, Patel was looking up the inside, but had to step back. That was a bit risky. I love the fact that we now see this race again, Redline versus Mercedes AMG Petronas, basically, as it was Kevin Siggy who went through this group previously, and then it was Pajic following right after, and they all run for the first top 5 spots, basically. Mohamed Patel and Jan van der Heijden. Jan van der Heijden still in 13th, and with Patel now getting risky there on the entry, slight wiggle on the car there, not enough traction. That might be a chance for Jan van der Heijden to take down both drivers in just one go. He's now on the inside of Patel. That might be enough there to even take down both, as he's side by side with Nuno Pinto now. And just when I said it, Jan van der Heijden all of a sudden winning 2 positions in a great move.
Yeah, and that is why he is our GT Pro champion. That was a fantastic move, and they're still side by side between Pinto and Patel. Backing out of it this time, though, was Nuno Pinto. Didn't fancy going side by side through here 2 laps in a row. Let's take a look at how that all unfolded. There's Risto Capit, there's Pinto, there's side by side, and we don't see this often, but what fantastic racing and spatial awareness between the two. It was a little bit too much there from Pinto, and Capit was able to get through into Stowe, but brilliant seeing some side-by-side action. Pinto, by the way, for good measure, has just come into the pit lane along with Stefanko, Yujovski, Danny Kish as well, all jumping the way of pit lane. These drivers all coming in now. We've passed the halfway point of the race here in round number 2 in the Formula Pro Series powered by Traction.gg. Pinto getting delayed in the pit lane. These are all one-stop strategies, I am absolutely sure. Oh my goodness me, the 2 Fordzilla drivers have crashed in the pit lane. Oh, Gianmarco
Fiducci. Did they? They did. He lost the rear wing, and a front wing is gone, I think.
He drove into him thinking it was a non-contact pit lane. Gianmarco Fiduci.
Oh.
That's rough. I've had that before.
That's why, Lewis, you normally read the back of the box. You know, back in the days of racing games when you had the big boxes with the CDs in.
I hope Nuno Pinto hasn't had the same reaction I had when someone did that to me at Silverstone a few years ago. I was not pleased. Not pleased. Out of the race, though, Nuno Pinto done. Gianmarco Fiduci will continue going, but I'm sure he won't be a popular candidate within that team at the moment. That's, I say, a driver who's very inexperienced in rFactor 2, assuming there was no contact in the pit lane, and that is a solid F out of 10.
I can only agree to that. I mean, that must feel horrible for the 2 drivers. I mean, you're sitting there, you're probably each other, right? It's like, oh, we're both in pits, we can do that, maybe we can drag each other along, and then it happens what happens here. Gianmarco Fiduci comes in, that's Nuno Pinto already on the pits, and boom! Yep, getting rid of a front wing, getting rid of a rear wing, basically helping the mechanics. But unfortunately, Nuno Pinto was just about to be done, so there was no new rear wing available for him.
And this
it's just gone.
this is why all of the other teams are all pitting at different times, because you share the same pit box as your teammates, so you've got to pick and choose when you come into the pit lane, making sure that you don't double stack, for example. It's not a pretty sight seeing that kind of contact in pit lane, but thankfully we are in the virtual world where it's a little bit of anger, but it doesn't really matter past that point. It's okay, everyone's all right, so at least we have that.
Will there be penalties and then
I'm sure
lower payments from the sponsors now that the prime spot, the rear wing, is gone? With only one of your big sponsors of the team. But back to racing action, Mr. Capet against the Unveiled away, but breaking there, really closing the gap to the RHE Esports driver. And it seems like he will be in position to attack very, very soon, although the exit was a bit slower. It was too close there on the apex, but so far, Lewis, and we have to point that out again, rFactor 2 Formula Pro, just like the GT Pro Series, delivering on every single lap you're watching.
Well, this is the thing, is that we were told beforehand, and we know this is a thing anyway, that Silverstone is a hard track to pass at. It is really difficult to make moves consistently around here as Patel enters the pit lane and Hanyovsky assumes 5th spot now, and the only drivers ahead of him are those of Redline and Mercedes.
Wait. Lewis, is that seat the Team Redline version seat? You know which one I mean, right?
Yeah,
there is a version with Team Redline on it. I was just wondering if that's the seat Hanyovsky is racing in. Sorry.
It would be amusing, but I mean, to be fair, knowing Iofsky, he's the kind of guy that would probably do that for a bit of a joke. But alas, Bonner House, though, leading the way at the moment, 2.5 seconds. We'll keep our eye on the gap and see if Jeffrey Rietveld could do anything to close it. But yeah, passing around here is difficult. We know that. But we've seen so many overtakes so far in this race. And part of that comes down from the confusion on strategy. We don't know if 2 stops or 1 stop's better. At the moment, it does seem, at least for our leaders, that surprisingly coming through it, at least for Bonner House, 2 stops absolutely fantastic, because he's come through and as if he's playing an F1 game, he's sliced his way through the traffic, managed to catch up to the leaders and get through on Jeffrey Rietveld, all in that sequence, and now assumes a 2.4 second lead.
Yeah, it's looking really good for him, and even with the second stop, I highly doubt that Jovsky is close to challenge him for a win if everything works as intended, I would say. We see Martin Stefanko in the foreground and then Jerry Tolman in the back, both with DRS, as they were both in the window for it. But no movement so far. Everyone now done their stop, at least one, besides the wall, actually. He didn't come in yet for Wolf's GR Esports. Well, we're still wondering, so if the chat knows, we want to know what GR is standing for in the name of GR Esports. We were looking for that. Lewis tried his best on the internet, and although the internet is new for him, he really put out of his way to find out what the GR says, and we want to know, does it stand for something? Does it stand for Gazoo Racing? Yeah, let us know there.
See, I don't think it does. I think it's more, obviously, there's no Toyota branding, which would be great, by the way. So if they don't have that, that is a perfect marketing opportunity. Well, we've already got GR in our name. Let's go for it. But it's something which is across all the regions. I'm sure we'll get the word, and I could have asked. That's what the people involved. You should just ask them. But either way, I like doing it the hard way, and like I say, need to the internet. I don't see in 1s and 0s, unlike everyone else, apparently. But I will say for DeVal, this is and for Wolves in general, this is a bit of a disappointing round right now. Like you say, yet to stop. Currently running in 6th position, and will obviously drop down behind quite a lot of this train. But last round, they ran in 4th spot, did Liam DeVal, and Maguire was running up inside the top 10 for quite a considerable portion of the race. So for them, as DeVal now finally comes into pit lane, this is not good.
Yeah, they would look really strong at the Spa race, and I was kind of surprised, as obviously seen them here in the Pro Series, and previously we were both on GT Pro Series GT, right? So there was no Wolves GR Esports. I was super happy to see them performing strong in Spa right from the get-go, but Silverstone so far not really what they're looking for at the home of British motor racing. Now we're back at Michi Hoyer, who had, I would say so far, a very low-laying race. It was kind of quiet. Nothing big happened so far to him in 13th. It's definitely not the position he expects himself to be after what he showed on the GT Racing side.
Jimmy Allison and also as well David Carter in chat say that it's GR is golf racing. There you go.
Is it? Are we talking about the company yet?
That's what they say. Is GR stands for golf racing. We are now as intelligent as Jimmy Allison. That is confirmed. 2.4 seconds though, still the lead battle. Bonnerhouse and Jeffrey Rietveld. I don't realistically see that one coming down. But remember, when they do pit, they may drop back a little bit into traffic. Although to be fair, based on where they are right now, I think they might actually escape the traffic. If they can come out, if they can do enough lap times to come out in 4th position, i.e. behind Pajic and teammates and whatever, this could be great because you know that the top 3 all need to make a second stop. For Siggy and Pajic, this is looking pretty bad, to be perfectly honest, because they are going to come out into the pack. But for the top 2, things are... I think things are looking good for House right now. Yellow flag out in Sector 2. Don't know who's caused that one. But I think it might be one of the Jean Lacey Sports Academy cars.
Look at the
Oh,
pace.
it's Maguire.
Look at the pace that the guys had. They brought to the track when they were on fresh tires. So even if they drop down the pack, obviously Wolf's GR Esports car without a rail wing sitting in the gravel trap. So we probably jinxed them with all the talks about them. Really sorry about that. But yeah, we saw the difference in pace, and I wonder, even if they drop into that group, they will be on brand new tires. And if they can make the move in the first 2 laps, then I don't see any issue.
Yeah, it's we're not 100% sure. Let's take a look at what happened to Maguire. This is by himself, running into the rear end. Just let's go. To be fair, based on how that car was driving in qualifying, I'm surprised he's lasted this long into the final third of the race, and finally the rear end letting go. I mean, some cars have looked pretty unstable today, but I don't know if they've just not nailed the setup at all, whether it is the same on Deval's car, because quite clearly there was a fundamental issue on Adam Maguire's setup or car. Maybe he had a bit of damage. Again, we don't really know what's happened to Maguire there, but the rear end just snapped. A little bit too much speed. It's a hard car to drive, isn't it? But clearly that was, taking the biscuit.
Mohamed Patel also on your screens. Absolutely love that. We have those driver cameras and can look into the cockpits basically, seeing how they do all the magic. Currently, he sits on 16th, and he sees Rista Capit and Jan van der Heide in front of him. Rista Capit, look at the plants in the background. That's a proper.
It's very
home.
calming.
Yeah, isn't it? Like he got his sponsor sitting in the back, and like he's a Predator down there, and his helmet and some plans. And what's on the right? Oh, a trophy, and then all the medals hanging on it. It's like,
Oh yeah,
could be right.
Well, yeah, you'd keep him close. I think the best person to show off sponsorship was always Alan Terzic, who back, when we all started doing all this webcams and stuff in racing, and starting to have it as Jeffrey Rietveld, by the way, into the pit lane right now, so already taking a second stop. But when Alan joined BS Competition, they decided it was a good idea to get a yoga ball and slap a BS Competition logo on it, and there you go, branding. Right in the background, just sat right there. It was absolutely fantastic. Siggy and Pajic also into the pit lane. Tabunnerhaus going a lap longer as he did in the previous stint, although Jeffrey Rietveld I think will come out into some cleaner air this time and things might look a little bit better. Yovski's coming through and will be behind Rietveld.
And so penalty for Rietveld.
Yes,
that speeding in the pit lane?
Yeah, it would be.
Oh dear, that is not what Jeffrey Rietveld was looking for. That's absolutely sure. He came in as the first car. Once again for his second stop, comes out as he set on cleaner air. So did Pajic in front of this fighting group of D'Alessandro and Daniel Kish, instead of right behind or even worse in between. So he will be happy. He has clean air. He can actually use the advantage of the tires immediately, and you see that the gap he's able to spread. But will be interesting now with Rietveld. He's second. What penalty did he got?
I would assume it's just going to be a drive-through penalty. Either way, it's going to drop him into the pack, which is, I was going to say, just a bit of a light way of putting it. That is not good for his podium chances. Yovski will absolutely love that, as trying to work through already. Kevin Siggy getting by Stefanko, and the charge is already on from the Slovenian. Next target, Jerne Simoncic. I'm sure he'll want to pass straight away. Again, these are all drivers on one-stop strategies. They're going to stretch it to the end of the race, and I don't think they're going to be lasting long with the charge of Siggy. You can see DRS activated on the pair of them, but that was not even difficult.
Not at all. Told you, it's like on these tires, it's absolutely incredible on what they can do in the first lap. And let's see, was it once again that aggressive entry into the pits? Probably was.
Oh, he didn't put the pit limiter on.
Yep. Oh, he speed up to 100 again. Oh, wow.
He was well under the 79 kilometers or 80 kilometers an hour is pit lane speed. He was well under that. Then accelerate, because obviously what you do when you come into pit lane, you slow down, and Siggy makes up that move on Marcel Chinchik. That was a proper send, and Chinchik's going to try and what's happened to Siggy there? He was slow off, and maybe he missed a shift or something like that, and now has received contact. There is carnage going on right now. Chinchik could not react to that at all. Will get by Siggy once again. He'll try and go around the outside of Brooklands and try his luck once more, but no way through right now. But super slow off the corner. Maybe it was just a bit of wheel spin. Maybe it was not shifting up for some reason, or slapping on the pit limiter. Is now being squeezed off by Marcel Chinchik. That will be looked on very, very dimly indeed. Siggy's finally through. Oh, is he though? That is bad racing between the two of them, I think.
It's kind of crazy how aggressive they are at each other right now. Marcel Chinchik not willing to give up that spot, and Kevin Siggy not willing to take it. And let's see that in the replay again. That looked good to me there, to be honest. And then all of a sudden,
just got hit.
Yeah, he was a bit slow.
Very.
Did he shift up too early, maybe?
I don't know. I really, really don't know. All I know is that making contact on a straight is not ideal, and that is exactly what they were doing into Copse. They already made contact going through into Woodcote, so I'm sure those two will be pulled up by race direction a little bit afterwards, and a bit of a slap on the wrist and potentially more as Pajic makes up a move. 8th spot. Now the next target, Williams Esports of Martin Stefanko, seeing Mercedes and Williams going toe-to-toe with Red Bull and all these big names. It's a fantastic grid we've got here.
Yeah, it's incredible racing, and we still have 15 minutes to go. And it's like Rietveld probably comes in for the penalty. I don't know what he got exactly. Pajic will probably try to get around Stefanko and Simoncic, because they're all on one-stop strategy, and he has the fresher tires on them right now. But where's the Williams Esports driver in his way? Let's see how quick he can actually make that, because there's still the chance to actually get onto Siggy or even Jeffrey Rietveld after the penalty.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see where Rietveld's going to come out. House into the pit lane for his final service, and it has been another sensational drive from the Flying Dutchman, who departs pit lane once again in the lead of the race. Rietveld, though, not come in for his service, so this will actually give us a good picture as to what the gap would have been and what we'd be looking forward to at this point in the race. And right now it is control of House regardless. A reminder though that Jeffrey Rietveld has a penalty for speeding in pit lane. He'll have to return to the lane. 2.3 seconds is pretty much as it was pre-pit stop, but obviously Rietveld's staying out right now to try and build up a gap and basically come out not in the mid pack. So that's terrible from Marcel Chinchik, let's be honest. Not going to beat around the bush there. Siggy was there. Then they make contact here as they're both driving into each other for some unknown reason on the straight down into Copse, but obviously they're trying to open the corner out as best as possible. That was, considering some of the racing we've seen, think back to Risto Capit and Nuno Pinto this race, think back to some of the racing that we saw in the previous round. That's not all we expect.
Definitely not, but we also know it boils up kind of quickly, right? All these drivers are really passionate about what they're doing, and they got a lot of pressure on their shoulders, and sometimes you're just fighting with a knife between your teeth. Basically what we saw here between Chinchik and Kevin Siggy.
Wow, that's it's like I say, these things they're racing hard, they're going for it, and sometimes egos have the better of us. There's Jan van der Heijden not wearing a Rocket Simsport shirt because he doesn't have one, so Zancho Simsport will have to do for now as he races around in the 15th spot at the moment, and a fair amount of pressure on the shoulders of GT Pro champion. He's got Mohamed Patel directly behind the well-versed open-wheel driver, someone they've worked a little bit closer with in other championships. And it must be said for Rocket Simsport, at least from what their goal is this season, is just to stay in stay in Formula Pro rather than GT Pro. I'm copying you. It's a stop-and-go penalty for Rietveld. Oh, Must
Yeah,
be a
that
10
will
second
hurt
stop,
way
though.
more.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if it was a drive-through or a stop and go. Oh, Patel and Yanford Hyder, by the way, have come together. That's not great. There we go. We can see Rietveld out of the pit lane. 10-second stop and go, though. Now down into the clutches of the midfield, which is not what Rietveld signed up for. There is Jerne Simoncic battling it out also. That's terrible for Rietveld. That is such a shame for a driver who, to be honest, in such a short season, unless something happens to House, that could be his championship. I know it is early and drama can happen, but mistakes like that when House and even, to be honest, to a certain degree, even Siggy, who's up in third now, they've almost seemed bulletproof. Second pole position and second time it's not worked.
Yeah, that's the bad statistics for him right there, right? It's like always being on pole and not converting into a win.
Yeah.
But we also have to say he did 2 pit stops, a third stop and go penalty, and he still has chances to get up into the top 10.
And I think he will definitely get inside the top 10. He's on the rear end of Danny Kish right now, but ahead of that you've got D'Alessandro, and not that far down the road. I mean, I know there's still 11 minutes left in the race, still a good few laps. I think probably realistically speaking, 9th is the best that he can get, but you never know with Rietveld. He might be able to work his way through into even something better than that. But obviously focusing on the task at hand, that is to get by Danny Kish. He'll be desperate to hang on to a top 10 finish as we ride on board with our race leader, Bruno Haus, who is just well ahead of the pack, 10 seconds clear of Yoski, who, after being spun round from Siggy, I think now that's a racing incident, it's fine. As long as he can finish second, he'll take that.
Probably. I mean, he will be totally fine. Yoski would have a way stronger race than he previously had in Spa, and it might spark for him once again in this championship. But Bonnehaus would come out as a 2-time winner, building a proper lead, and this time he also has his teammate Mark Pajic way closer on 5th. So finally time for Mercedes to properly score compared to Redline. I mean, Rietveld is already in 10th. Siggy is still in 3rd, so that's a podium spot. But you said the best he probably can do without any big mistakes now is to take down D'Alessandro in 9th for BS competition, which would still look good for them. But yeah, it is Mercedes then taking over the top spot on the leaderboard in terms of team championship after this race, if it finishes like this.
Yeah, but I don't think it will, because Rietveld is making so much progress. This is how he got by Danny Kish as a proper send here, and I think he's close to making a move on Michele D'Alessandro. There we go, down the inside. You can tell he's firing on all cylinders, trying to make these moves. A proper send there to get to the inside, and has just completed another one as we head back to live pictures on Michele D'Alessandro. I said, 9th was maybe realistic, but is definitely aiming for more than that. With 10 minutes to go, this could be an absolute comeback drive from Jeffrey Rietveld. Could you imagine if he gets a top 5 and beats Marko Pajic after a stop and go?
That will be absolutely incredible. But we also saw the symptom Daniel Kish. He had he locked up the front right tire, right? So depending on which corners he normally makes his move, and most of them are right-handers, he might struggle with the tires too early. I mean, what if it really drops off in pace massively all of a sudden? And then he gets into trouble, and up to Pajic, there's still a few drivers in between, and Toman, Stefanko, Simoncic, right? We're not talking about randoms in open lobbies in between them. No, they're really, really good top drivers.
Yeah, the very top. Not only, I've said this before, of not only of rFactor 2, but of sim racing in general. We have some top tier drivers from all over the sim racing stratosphere, and they are proving why they are. And you're absolutely right. For Rietveld to get through, he has to pass the very, very best. But every position he picks up is points. As you got the this is Jordi Sveers going a lap down, I believe. It might be Kasper Stolzer, actually. It was Kasper Stolzer, actually, going a lap down there. Jordi Sveers with the red end plates. Not been a good day for Jean Lacey Esports Academy, although I will say, at least from having a little chat with Jordi Sveers prior to the race, it's not unexpected. They weren't expecting to do too well. They're just trying to get to the end of the race. They're trying to hoover up some points and hoover up the mistakes of other teams. And realistically speaking, they're both still on the track and they're both still going.
Yeah, the fight is not over just yet, and we still got 8 minutes. Wonder if Stefanko might get a shot at Johnny Simoncic from Burst Esports here. And there's also the fight in front, right? There's still Page, there's still Marcel Chinchik, and we saw Chinchik fighting heavily against Kevin Siggy. So wonder if it works better now with Page.
Wow, we're talking latter points of the race. We are talking the final few minutes, the final few laps, and Marcel Chinchik is in 4th spot. Not sure if it's a position he'll hold, because I'm sure they'll take a look at that, the contact between himself and Siggy. I know Siggy's ahead, but I'm sure they'll take a look at it regardless, and I don't think Chinchik will come across too well from pushing his competitor onto the grass. But really, obviously, I'm not speaking for race control there. They can make their decisions, it's fine. I'm just speaking for myself. Marcel Chinchik there in 4th spot, though, with a lot of pressure. He is going to fight this one as hard as you can. It's not going to be like when Bonnehaus passed. It's going to be full defence. There we go, holding it in the middle of the road to try and keep Page at bay, and is going to do so for now. But as every corner goes, it's an opportunity gone begging. Jordi's veers into the pit lane, did spin at Kops, mostly, I think, trying to get out of the way of the pack, although he's going to have to really dive off the racetrack, because this is a hungry pack coming, and they are firing it through. They are all in contention for 4th spot.
Yeah, this will probably go up until the end. I mean, it's not yet decided. Everyone did their pit stop, so we're done and dusted with that, and there will be minor differences now in terms of the tyre. Tyre age, basically. Jeffrey Riefeld, obviously, and slightly newer ones, and his tyres actually had time to cool down again while sitting in the pit lane. But he's now behind Jiri Toman. He's already in 9th. Was an easy pass for him, and he's now sending it alongside Toman, and ooh, that was really, really close. Seems like Toman can defend this one against Rietfeld on the outside. Yeah, Rietfeld has to step back once again, slot behind the Varga Sim Racing car. And that costs time, because he can see Stefanko there. He knows that Toman's not really getting any closer. So if he wants, they're really sending it up the inside. I think that was a bit too hot there. Touch Toman. Also a bit of wiggle and slide with the car. But now he got all the space available to him to take down Stefanko.
And chat goes wild saying we've seen that before. Because we have seen it before. I mean, it was a little bit different, but yeah, it was a proper send there to the inside. But Rietveld is charging. By the way, behind that, we did see that Michele D'Alessandro and Danny Kish were battling between BS Competition and Rocket Simsport, who the other 2 drivers in that team. I did say that Jan van der Heide and Mohamed Patel had come together. Patel has let Jan van der Heide back through, although way down the order now in 17th spot. They were a bit further ahead. It was contact down into Stowe. That's what's happened there. And the other yellow flag that came out, as I said before, was Jordi Veers going for a bit of a spin all by himself before letting through Bonnehaus and going a lap down. We're focused on the battle, though, for 4th spot. We're focused on Marcel Chinchik. We're focused on Marko Pajic. 4th spot would be a great drive from Varga Sim Racing. And to be fair, points-wise for the team,
tell you they're currently
he wants 4th.
Yeah, they're currently in 2nd, 345 points, right behind Team Redline. So if Chinchik and Toman can hold on to it, I know that would be nice for them. But 3rd is Mercedes, and Mercedes will definitely pass them after this one. That's the fight that we just saw from the perspective of Toman previously. Nice fight between those 2, though.
Yeah,
and then
Varga.
this was the send.
Oh, that's a proper send.
Oh, but it looked good from this one here. I mean, from that camera, it did not look like they're really touched.
I think it was fine, at least from that angle. I mean, I'd say it's such a high speed. I think it was okay. I mean, he was there, to be perfectly honest, Rietveldt. He got all the way there, and unlike someone else, didn't miss the apex. He actually hooked it there onto the white line and made it stick. So I think that was a fair move, hard racing, and made it work. D'Alessandro and Kish switched positions. Michele D'Alessandro, they've not switched positions. They're still in that current spot, but this is now the fight for the final position inside the top 10. You know Danny Kish is going to be fighting this one hard. Yovsky, by the way, has been sliding around, but I don't think he'll be too worried, because he's got a decent gap down to Kevin Siggy. And I believe we are on the 3rd to last lap of the race as they run round. So not many opportunities now for Pajic to get through. Not many opportunities for Rietveld to get through on Simoncic. But he's only a couple of positions now down on one of their main rivals in the Team's Championship, which is obviously the main focus here. But whilst we're looking for the Drivers' Championship, we really want to focus on who's going to win the team's title.
Oh, look at Rietveld. I mean, he took down Stefanko. He's now right behind Johnny Simoncic already and had an attack, and I think he just touched Simoncic at the back, spinning around, sending him into the wall at full throttle there. That was a heavy impact, and we will definitely see Simoncic not returning. And that should be a DNF. No, it isn't. Oh, he's still running, but without a front wing. And that's obviously super dangerous to do, but wow. I wonder who was making that move. Was it Simoncic trying to change lines again? Basically sending us back to the 24-hour qualification race at the Nürburgring, where the leader in TCR did the same and smashed 2 cars in the same wall. But this time, it only cost Simoncic the race. Still 8th though. I think, he's pitting now. He will drop out of the top 10. Oh, that was not nice.
This is where you'd need to see it on board with Jeffrey Rietveld. It unfolds so fast, and obviously trying to get a run through, coming through Woodcote there. High drama. I mean, we saw something very similar, if I remember correctly, with Nikodem Vishnevsky back in GT Pro, but that was coming out of the final corner, going on to the Hamilton Straight, which it is now, so just start from the straight, we'll go with that. Let's take a look, though, was once again going on the attack, Marko Pajic, no way through, but now it is all about Jeffrey Rietveld, who is right there for Pajic. We're on board with Pajic, we're on board with Rietveld, as he'll try and find his way through. From Chinchik, that was maybe a little bit too hard, gave absolutely no room, going through Cops. It's still the Varga Sim Racing driver holding firm. Oh, this is going to end in absolute tears, I am sure of that.
Look at that fire.
Have lost Rene a little bit.
I think we're losing you, man. So you're the one dropping out, at least for me.
Very well.
Now Noah. Three seconds. And so far, Kevin Siggy can hold on to this. And Marcel Chinchik will probably have to fight off Jeffrey Rietveld if he's able to close that now. Well, we've got a penalty for Liam de Waal in the background. So that will add even more insult to his race already. See if Rietveld now can close that to Marcel Chinchik on the slightly longer straight. It wasn't enough, though, to really launch an attack here. The time is running out for all of these drivers. Can Varga stay here on 4th? Or will Rietveld close the gap to his teammate and get right behind Kevin C?
Well, out of final corner, I think Aidan Millward put this one best. The house always wins. Bono House, final corner, back-to-back victories to open the season in Formula Pro, and he wins once again the Silverstone Grand Prix in a fantastic race for him. Mercedes on top from an unlikely podium of Erhan Yayovsky, who gets up there for RHG. I say unlikely, and that's only down to the strength of Redline and Mercedes. Coming out into second spot, Kevin Siggy, the response up into 3rd, but that fight between Jeffrey Rietveld and Marko Pajic, apologies for us losing it, but Pajic is behind Rietveld. Marcel Chinchik has held on valiantly in this insane defence at present as they depart the final corner. It's Chinchik to hang on for 4th. It's Rietveld inside the top 5 after a 2-stop strategy and a stop and go.
Absolutely incredible what Jeffrey Rietveld managed to do here. I mean, that was his second pole position. Once again, not getting a win out of that, which is will probably hurt him the most. But that comeback from a 2-stop strategy, and as you said, the penalty that he got there. Oh, Pajic with a slide there in the chicane, nearly throwing away the car, and that got Jeffrey Rietveld an easy position and allowed him to actually attack Chinchik here.
Yeah, crazy stuff. That's what we missed a little bit there. Rietveld, though, like I say, sensational drive up into 5th spot. It really was exceptional. But Bono House on top. That is absolutely excellent once again. Had to work for it today, potentially even harder than he had to at Spa. Took the lead in the very early stages of Spa. This time it was all about the pit lane sequence. It was all about taking advantage of that two-stop strategy and working his way through the order and passing Jeffrey Rietveld in the midst of traffic. It was absolutely sensational. A drive-through penalty, a stop-and-go penalty for Rietveld really put the nail in the coffin, though, after speeding in the pit lane. Yuyovski, I mean, this is the Yuyovski we know about. This is the Yuyovski we wanted to see. We didn't quite see him at Spa. 6th spot there, 2nd spot here for R8G Esports. That is a response.
Yeah, it's definitely looking good for him now. I think that was a good start into the season, although, as you said it already, it is a very short one. So you have to score strong right from the start out of the gate. But he can be happy with 2nd. It was a race, even with problems for him, right? He had that contact with Kevin Siggy, spun around, still managed to come 2nd. I would say as impressive as Jeffrey Rietveld's comeback.
Yeah, it really was. Like I say, I mean, it was hard racing between himself and Siggy at Brooklands. It was tight stuff. There was very, very little to choose between them. And I mean, I'm sure you could look at it 100 times and pull out a different opinion almost every single time. It was so tight between them. But the spin, the response kept it calm, kept to the form book as well of sticking to a one-stop strategy, which whilst we saw a couple of teams, being Redline and Mercedes, trying the two-stop strategy, once again, we're seeing the one-stop be the main focus. That's what most of the teams are going for out there, but this time, not the winning strategy.
Yeah, I want to say, it's like we thought it will be an easy one this time in terms of strategies. Everyone would go for a one-stop strategy, and I think the track really had a big impact on that. So I wonder how it will be for the rest of the season. Right now, people get more used to the car. They know now what to expect from it on other racetracks. And we're leaving the UK, obviously, and then in 2 weeks' time, we're actually heading over to the Nürburgring, which is a different track in terms of how you use the tires and how you actually be quick on it, as there are not that many flowing corners, I would say, as you find them in Silverstone. So I wonder if we see another surprise in terms of strategies just there.
I think we were. The thing is, when we see these new series and stuff with new cars and new this and new that, and we see these random strategies come out, and some of them work, some of them don't work, and eventually we see everyone converging onto one ideal strategy, whether it's soft hard or whatever it is. Whatever strategy works, you'll see most of the grid go towards it. Whereas right now here, the only reason we see that trend is because one strategy constantly wins. Whereas now we've seen a one-stop strategy win, we've now seen a two-stop strategy win, and also, again, Silverstone is a track that's hard to overtake, courtesy of those fast-flowing corners. I really don't know what the ideal strategy will be when we get to Nürburgring. That's fantastic. That's a great problem to have, because it means we're wide open.
Yeah, definitely. It brings more variety to the championship, right? And we want to be surprised as well. It's nice as a commentator to sit there and know exactly what's happening, but way cooler if you actually live through it like the audience, right? Like you're trying to constantly think about what's out there, what's possible for the drivers, and that's the fun of it. And I think the parc by Traction.gg really proved once again how great racing can be in these championships on rFactor, just like the GT Pro Series. We had amazing fights, great races, and we also get the race results, and that's probably what everyone is looking for. But no big surprises. Bonnerhouse obviously winning after following Jeffrey Rietveld for, I would say, a fourth of the race in the beginning.
Yeah, it was tight there, but through the pit lane sequence, he came out on top. House, Yuyovski and Siggy a podium, with Cinčić, Rietveld behind to round out the top 5 in that tight fight. Marko Pajic down to 6th, with Martin Stefanko in 7th position, his first round of the season. Yuri Toma, Michele D'Alessandro and Danny Kish round out the top 10. Alex Siebel, Michi Hoyer and Risto Capit, your top half of the field. Fastest lap this time does go to your race winner. It was Dennis Jordan last round. Bonnerhouse, though, taking it and leading 23 laps. He led 33 at the previous round of the season, but this one a bit more open when it comes to laps led. Even Yuyovski led 4 through the pit lane sequence. You can see the points there as well given to them, and that does include some of the drivers that completed a certain portion of the race. Obviously a retirement for Gianmarco Fiduci and Nuno Pinto after contact in the pit lane. I'm sure Fiduci will come back stronger this time. Adam Maguire also another retirement with Manuel Biancalilla, but the finishers ahead of them, you've got Dennis Jordan in 14th with Jan van der Heide. 1 and 2 2 in GT Pro last season are down in 14th and 15th here. Mohamed Patel and Petr Berliak, Valeriano in 18th position with Jone Simoncic after that late contact on the old start finish straight out of Woodcote. Jordi Sveers and Kasper Stolzer were basically just driving around by themselves all day. And Liam DeVal, well, that car looked like hard work to drive, same as Adam Maguire's, and not too many points to yield from this round. Silverstone, though, once again, delivering great action here on rFactor 2.
I absolutely love the overview of who won and gained places, because I want to say with all the stuff that went on there, Petr Berliak did not win or lose a single position. Although everyone around him did. He's the only driver that stayed exactly where he started, and Adam Maguire even won 2 positions with the DNF to where he started. So yeah, that was quite an entertaining race. And we got the standings from both of the races, and Team Redline still leading 712 points in front of Mercedes-AMG Petronas Esports Team 703, because they sent down Varga Sim Racing now down to 3rd. They have been in 2nd previously.
Yeah, slashing that gap did Mercedes-AMG. I say slashing, it's not really come down that much, all things considered, but in the grand scheme of things, it does come down quite a bit. It's been a good day from Mercedes. They had obviously drama at Spa, winning the race in both of them, but Pajic having a technical issue, now responding a little bit when it comes to the point score. And obviously we focus more on the Teams Championship for the reason that most of the prize money comes in it. It's thousands of dollars for winning the championship, a total of $5,000 for being on top, and you want to win that, of course. I mean, that's a lot of money. You're not going to turn your nose up to that. You're going to put in the work. But for Redline and Mercedes, I think this battle's going to be very, very tight all season.
Yeah, definitely. If we keep going at this rate, then we'll probably run out of voice at the end of the season due to all the things that happened in the race. These are the standings by drivers. Obviously, Bonnerhouse are currently the leading single driver. It's not his team, as we just learned, but 2 race wins and 2 race starts. I can't really complain about that. 2 poles for Rietveld, so he kind of mirrors House, unfortunately, on the stats where that doesn't bring as many points as on the other one. But so far, a great race, a good comeback here in Silverstone, and definitely a driver to watch out for in the next 4 races.
You can see there Liam DeVal dropping right down the order to 9th spot after finishing in 4th at Spa, so needs to get back on top of it next round. It's going to be a bit of a tall order. You can see other drivers as well involved there. Dennis Jordan down after setting the fastest lap and having 2 rounds that did not really work out in favour for Red Bull. They've been, respectfully speaking, a bit of a disappointment in that sense. They've just not been able to take maximum advantage of this championship in the opening 2 rounds. We head to the Nürburgring next, though, on the 16th of August, and I'm sure if the first 2 races are anything to go by, Rene, we're in for an absolute treat once again.
We are. I mean, we're basically going from your living room to my living room. Yeah. So that's kind of cool in terms of the journey. But yeah, even though, as I said, Red Bull Racing Esports might disappoint a bit so far in the championship, racing did not disappoint at all. So we're more than happy to bring you the Nürburgring race on the 16th of August. That's round number 3 on the rFactor 2 Formula Pro Series powered by Traction.gg. This Friday will be the rFactor 2 Challenge Series. So you see the drivers that are working on their way into the Pro Series just next season. And then the week after, finally, the big return of the rFactor GT Pro Series with the first race. The Sims Cup is coming back as well as part of the Sports Series of the GT Pro Series. And then the GT Challenge as well. So as you can tell, what would I say, there's plenty of racing out there. And Lewis, since I have to ask now, what is your prediction for Aidan Millward's second race in the rFactor 2 Challenge Series on Friday?
I mean, to be fair, he did quite well last week, grabbing a podium. Home soil. Look, let's be real here. It's got to be a win. It's got to be a win. Danny Kish getting the top 10 there, on that kind of setup as well. There's no excuse. Absolutely none.
All right, after putting a lot of pressures on the drivers for the last hour, we're now putting a lot of pressure on the talent team. For Aidan Millward being there for challenge in the car, not in the commentary booth though. It is it for today. Thanks, Lewis McGlade, for joining us. And my name is Rudy Butler, and I see you guys next time on the 16th of August at the Nürburgring.